Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrei Shevchenko, and on behalf of the team of Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform, I want to thank all the journalists who tell the world about our fight for freedom. This time joining us online is Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of Melitopol. Mr. Ivan, what's new in your city? Good afternoon. We see that the temporary occupation not only in Melitopol but all over the places where the occupation is, there is a great pressure on the civil population. The Russians just reinforced the information vacuum existing in those parts of the territory. They captured one of the biggest providers of internet in Melitopol. They took control over the provider back in summer, but the different clans were fighting over the control of this provider. And finally, one clan took control over one internet provider who was providing internet to tens of thousands of households. So now our citizens ended up without objective information, so they're now forced to stand in lines to another internet provider to get reconnected. They get on in those lines starting from the 5 o'clock in the morning, and the reason it happens because they want to get access to their faithful information and not something that is spread by Russian propaganda. The Russians, they press on the people who have no means to survive, and they are forced to receive the financial aid in amount of 10,000 rubles from Russians. But now there are new rules imposed that only those who got Russian passports, only they can receive those financial aid, and those who did not receive Russian passports, they cannot get financial aid, which was accrued starting from December. And now we see even the information wars erupting between different clans of Russians. Now the collaborationists that were appointed by FSB are in a war with the collaborationists appointed by the General Staff of Armed Forces of Russian Federation. And the reason for war was the renaming of the streets in Melitopol, which became the reason for division. And we hope that only one of them will survive, and that will facilitate the life of our people in Melitopol. We also see that our work on collaboration is starting from the beginning of the year. It starts bringing the first harvest, so to say. We got the first conviction of one of the collaborationists who was convicted for 6 years. And yesterday, the Security Service of Ukraine started pre-court investigation and submitted the paperwork for one of the proxy governors, Danilchenko, and she is about to face the life sentence for collaboration for high treason starting from 2014, and the apogee was her coming into office in a forcible manner. The Russians create the volunteer battalion named after Sudoplatov, but the residents of the occupied territories, they don't want to join that battalion. And the Russians, they start to spread their propaganda as if the residents of other areas come to join the battalion. But after the investigation by the American Institute of War Studies, all the people who introduced themselves as either persons from Turkey or Serbia, all that information turns out to be fake. Well, any questions on the floor? Good afternoon. Do you know about the number of people who still remain in Melitopol? Is there any opportunity for them to leave Melitopol? And on current phase, what kind of support can be provided by the Ukrainian government, either financial aid or humanitarian aid or assistance in evacuation? Thank you for this question. I understand the question. Well, as to the number of those remaining in the city, according to our estimates, it's about 50,000-60,000 people who still remain in Melitopol. That is probably 1/3 of the population of the pre-war time. there are a number of options, either through temporarily occupied Crimea and then to the nearest airport in Russian Federation, and then a flight to Bulgaria or Turkey or other countries that receive flights from Russia, or through Georgia by bus, for example, and then back to Ukraine through European Union. There is a program in place when we support the evacuation of our citizens to Romania, which is a country of European Union, and they provide our citizens with food rations and bulletin. So we accompany them on the way to Romania. As to the government support in general, the government continues to exercise all their duties with regard to the citizens, its pensions, other kinds of financial disbursements, salaries, and so on. So the citizens don't currently have an opportunity to convert the non-cash funds that income as payments to their payment cards to cash, but the funds are still being accumulated in their accounts. We don't have any option for delivering humanitarian aid to our citizens for the time being because Russia's blocked all our options, all the routes. Any more questions on the floor? Well, if we've seen the news that there is pressure on the Ukrainian citizens with regard to them receiving the Russian passports. What are your comments on that? Well, the pressure is being increased on the people because the Russians want to get as much people as possible to get involved in their criminal activities, because now almost a year of the full-scale invasion has expired and they still don't have any support among the Ukrainian citizens. So what they try to do is to issue the passports to the citizens in the forced manner. So now there are new rules. Those who don't have Russian passports will not be able to use their own real estate or cars. They will be unable to register newly acquired cars and newly acquired real estate. And those who have passports, they will fall under tax regime of the aggressor country, and those who do not have Russian passports, they will be forced to pay the taxes twice more, which will amount to 36% of their income of the household. But the aggressor also has issues, has problems with issuing foreign passports because, or the international passports, because due to imposition of sanctions, they have problems with deliveries of chips which are embedded in the passports. Do you see any prospects of intensification of offensive from the south? Well, I would like such forecasts to be commented by the military intelligence or armed forces, but we see the new units of Wagner, newly mobilized troops, coming to Melitopol and to Mikhailivka. They come in mass, they deploy in the social facilities, social values, and they try to get quartered in the region of Melitopol as well. They picked our region as the administrative and logistics center, and they are come in mass there in more and more quantities. Thank you for joining our broadcast. Joining us was Ivan Fedorov, the mayor of Melitopol. I invite all the journalists to follow the announcements of Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. Our next briefing is at 1500. Joining us will be Fedor Venislavsky, the permanent representative of the President of Ukraine to Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Stand with Ukraine.